Isabella's room was a sanctuary of solitude, a refuge from the cacophony of family gatherings that seemed to permeate every corner of their modest home. The walls, adorned with faded posters and tattered memorabilia from her childhood, served as silent witnesses to her inner turmoil. Rain tapped against the windowpane, a melancholy rhythm that matched the somberness of Isabella's mood. She perched on the edge of her bed, her fingers tracing the familiar contours of her surroundings with a sense of resignation. At 20, she found herself adrift in a sea of uncertainty, grappling with the weight of familial expectations that threatened to suffocate her burgeoning sense of self. The distant murmur of voices from downstairs pulled Isabella from her reverie, a stark reminder of the gathering that unfolded beyond the confines of her room. With a heavy sigh, she rose from her perch, the floorboards creaking beneath her as she made her way to the door. As Isabella descended the staircase, the voices grew louder, mingling with the scent of home-cooked meals and the warmth of familial camaraderie. Her heart clenched at the sight of her brother Jacob, his easy smile and magnetic presence casting a long shadow over her own insecurities. "Isabella, there you are." Her mother's voice broke through the din, tinged with a note of disappointment. Isabella forced a tight-lipped smile, her gaze drifting past her mother to where Jacob stood at the center of attention. "Hey Bella, glad you could join us." Jacob's voice carried a hint of condescension, his attention already drifting elsewhere as he engaged in animated conversation with their relatives. Isabella nodded politely, her discomfort palpable amidst the forced pleasantries. She exchanged brief pleasantries with her family members, her words hollow against the backdrop of her own inner turmoil. "Evelyn, this is Isabella, my sister." Jacob's introduction was curt, his gaze flickering over Isabella as if she were an afterthought. Evelyn's gaze lingered on Isabella for a moment too long, a subtle hint of curiosity sparking within her eyes. "Nice to meet you, Isabella," she offered a polite smile, though the warmth did little to dispel the chill that settled over Isabella's heart. With a forced smile plastered on her lips, Isabella retreated into the shadows once more, the weight of her family's expectations bearing down on her with suffocating intensity. And as she sought solace in the anonymity of her room once more, she couldn't shake the feeling of being a stranger in her own home. The evening air was heavy with anticipation as Isabella descended the staircase once more, her steps measured and deliberate as she braced herself for the gathering unfolding below. The soft glow of lamplight spilled from the living room, casting long shadows across the hallway as she approached the heart of her family's domain. As Isabella entered the room, she was met with the familiar sight of her family gathered around the coffee table, their laughter and chatter filling the air with a sense of warmth that felt foreign to her. Jacob stood at the center of attention, his easy smile and confident demeanor commanding the room, while Evelyn, his fiancée, exuded an air of elegance and charm that seemed to draw everyone's gaze. "Isabella, darling, you're finally joining us." Her mother's strained smile failed to conceal the disappointment in her eyes as she greeted Isabella, her words laden with unspoken reproach. Isabella offered a polite nod in response, her discomfort palpable amidst the forced pleasantries that hung in the air like a heavy shroud. She exchanged brief pleasantries with her family members, her words hollow against the backdrop of her own inner turmoil. "Evelyn, this is Isabella, my sister." Jacob's introduction was curt, his attention already drifting elsewhere as he engaged in animated conversation with their relatives, leaving Isabella to navigate the chasm of their estrangement alone. Evelyn's gaze lingered on Isabella for a moment too long, a subtle hint of curiosity sparking within her eyes as she observed Isabella with a keen interest. "Nice to meet you, Isabella," she offered a polite smile, though the warmth did little to dispel the chill that settled over Isabella's heart. Isabella forced a tight-lipped smile in return, her discomfort mounting with each passing moment as she struggled to find her place amidst the sea of familiar faces that seemed to regard her with an air of detached curiosity. And as she retreated into the shadows once more, the weight of her family's expectations bore down on her with suffocating intensity, leaving her feeling like a stranger in her own home. The days stretched into weeks, and the weeks into months, yet the chasm between Isabella and her family only seemed to widen with time. Each gathering, each interaction, served as a stark reminder of her perceived inadequacies, leaving her feeling like an outsider in her own home. Evelyn's subtle jabs and Jacob's indifference weighed heavily on Isabella's psyche, chipping away at her fragile sense of self-worth with each passing day. Their words lingered like shadows in the recesses of her mind, casting doubt upon her worthiness and fueling the flames of her insecurities. As Isabella retreated further into herself, she sought solace in the anonymity of her online ventures, where she could carve out a space for herself on her own terms. Her streaming channel became a refuge, a sanctuary where she could shed the weight of familial expectations and embrace her true passions without fear of judgment or reproach. But even amidst her burgeoning success, the specter of exclusion loomed large, a constant reminder of the barriers that stood between Isabella and her family. Each milestone she reached served only to underscore her perceived inadequacies, leaving her feeling more isolated and alone than ever before. "You're always so busy with your little online projects." Jacob's voice carried a note of disdain as he glanced over Isabella's shoulder at her laptop screen, his tone laced with thinly veiled contempt. Isabella forced a tight-lipped smile in response, her fingers trembling slightly as she fought to suppress the rising tide of frustration that threatened to consume her. "It's just something I enjoy doing," she offered weakly, though her words fell on deaf ears amidst the din of her family's disapproval. And as she retreated once more into the solitude of her room, the weight of exclusion bore down on Isabella with suffocating intensity, leaving her feeling more alone and adrift than ever before. In the quiet solitude of her room, Isabella found solace amidst the glow of her computer screen. The soft hum of her laptop filled the space, a comforting melody that served as a constant companion in her solitary pursuits. With each click of the mouse and tap of the keyboard, Isabella poured herself into her work with a fervor born of determination and resilience. Her online streaming channel became a canvas upon which she could paint the vibrant tapestry of her imagination, drawing in viewers from around the world with her unique blend of charisma and authenticity. With each broadcast, she felt a sense of liberation, a freedom to express herself without fear of judgment or reproach. As her channel gained traction, Isabella's confidence soared, her voice echoing across the digital landscape with a clarity and conviction that belied her years. She found herself immersed in a world of endless possibilities, where the only limits were those of her own imagination. "I can't believe how many subscribers you have now," her friend's voice crackled through the speakers, mingling with the soft strains of background music as they chatted over video call. Isabella smiled, a sense of pride swelling within her chest as she glanced at the glowing numbers on her screen. "It's been a journey, that's for sure," she replied, her voice tinged with a hint of disbelief. Her friend's laughter filled the air, a joyful sound that served as a reminder of the connections she had forged through her online ventures. "You're like a celebrity now," they teased, though the warmth in their tone was unmistakable. Isabella chuckled in response, her heart swelling with gratitude for the support of those who had stood by her side through thick and thin. And as she continued to build bridges through her online endeavors, she knew that she was destined for greatness, her journey unfolding one bold step at a time. As Isabella's online ventures flourished, she found herself riding the crest of success, basking in the glow of her achievements with a sense of pride and fulfillment. Her streaming channel attracted a growing audience, each viewer drawn in by the magnetism of her personality and the authenticity of her content. But fortune, like the shifting tides, was fickle and unpredictable. When news of Jacob's ill-fated investment reached Isabella's ears, it sent shockwaves rippling through the fragile fabric of her newfound success. The weight of her family's financial troubles pressed down upon her like a suffocating blanket, threatening to drown her in a sea of obligation and guilt. Her family's desperate pleas for financial assistance stirred conflicting emotions within her, a tug-of-war between duty and self-preservation. As she grappled with the decision weighing heavily upon her shoulders, Isabella found herself torn between the desire to help her family and the need to protect her own autonomy. "I just don't know what to do," Isabella confided in her closest friend, her voice tinged with uncertainty as she poured out her heart over a cup of coffee. Her friend reached across the table, offering a reassuring squeeze of her hand. "You have to do what's best for you," they urged, their eyes filled with empathy and understanding. But even as Isabella wrestled with her conscience, a sense of unease gnawed at the edges of her mind. She knew that whatever decision she made would have far-reaching consequences, forever altering the course of her life and the lives of those she held dear. In the end, Isabella chose to turn her back on her family's pleas, asserting her autonomy in the face of their entitlement. Though the decision weighed heavily upon her heart, she knew that she could not sacrifice her own dreams and aspirations for the sake of familial obligation. And as she stood firm in her resolve, Isabella felt a sense of liberation wash over her, a newfound clarity born from the ashes of her fractured familial ties. For better or for worse, she knew that she was charting her own course, forging a path for herself on her own terms. As the dust settled from Isabella's decision to turn away from her family's pleas for financial assistance, she found herself grappling with the fallout of her choices. The rift between her and her family deepened, the echoes of their disappointment and resentment ringing in her ears like a relentless chorus of disapproval. Despite the lingering sense of guilt that weighed heavily upon her heart, Isabella remained resolute in her decision to prioritize her own autonomy and independence. With each passing day, she felt a sense of liberation wash over her, a newfound clarity born from the ashes of her fractured familial ties. But amidst the solitude of her newfound independence, Isabella found herself wrestling with the ghosts of her past, haunted by the memories of the family she had once called her own. The shadows of their estrangement loomed large, casting a pall over her thoughts and leaving her feeling adrift in a sea of uncertainty. "I just don't understand why you're doing this," her mother's voice crackled through the phone line, tinged with a note of desperation, as she pleaded with Isabella to reconsider her decision. Isabella closed her eyes, the weight of her mother's words pressing down upon her like a leaden weight. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered, her voice heavy with emotion, "but I have to do what's best for me." Her mother fell silent on the other end of the line, the weight of their conversation hanging heavy in the air like a shroud. And as Isabella hung up the phone, she knew that she had made the right decision, no matter how difficult it may have been. But even as she sought to forge a new path forward, Isabella could not shake the lingering sense of loss that gnawed at the edges of her consciousness. The ache of estrangement lingered like a phantom limb, a constant reminder of the bonds that had been broken and the bridges that had been burned. And yet, amidst the turmoil of her fractured familial ties, Isabella found a sense of peace within herself, a quiet resolve born from the crucible of her own resilience. For better or for worse, she knew that she was charting her own course, forging a path for herself on her own terms. And as she embraced the uncertainty of the journey ahead, she knew that she was destined for greatness, her spirit unbreakable in the face of adversity. In the aftermath of her strained familial bonds, Isabella stood at the brink of a new chapter, ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Each step forward filled her with a sense of liberation, as if shedding the burdens of the past and stepping into a brighter future. Armed with nothing but her determination and unwavering spirit, Isabella ventured into uncharted territory, determined to carve out her own path on her own terms. Despite the uncertainties that lay ahead, she faced them with optimism and resolve, knowing deep down that greatness awaited her. Day by day, Isabella immersed herself in her work with renewed vigor, pouring her passion and creativity into her online ventures and business endeavors. With each obstacle she overcame, she emerged stronger and more confident, fueled by the belief that she was capable of achieving anything she set her mind to. "I can't believe how much you've accomplished." Her friend's voice echoed through the speakers of her laptop during their video call, their face illuminated by the soft glow of the screen. Isabella smiled, a swell of pride filling her chest as she reflected on her journey. "It's been a challenging road, but every moment has been worth it," she replied, her voice tinged with gratitude. Her friend nodded in understanding, their eyes filled with admiration. "You're truly an inspiration, Bella," they said, echoing the sentiments of countless others who had been inspired by Isabella's resilience and determination. As Isabella continued forging ahead into the unknown, she knew she wasn't alone. Despite the challenges and obstacles that lay ahead, she faced them with unwavering determination, knowing she possessed the strength and courage to overcome any adversity. Whether the journey brought joy or hardship, Isabella was determined to chart her own course, creating a path for herself on her own terms. And as she embraced the uncertainty of the road ahead, she remained steadfast in her belief that greatness awaited her, her spirit unbreakable in the face of any challenge that came her way. Eventually, Isabella's hard work and dedication paid off, as her online project began to generate substantial income. With her newfound success, Isabella found good reasons to reach out to her family. During a heartfelt conversation with her parents, Isabella expressed her desire to support them financially. "I know we've had our differences in the past," she began, "but I want to help you now. I've been fortunate enough to find success, and I want to share that with you." Tears welled up in her parents' eyes as they listened to Isabella's words. "We're so proud of you, Isabella," her mother said, her voice filled with emotion. "And we're grateful for your generosity." From that moment on, Isabella made it her mission to support her family in any way she could. As she looked back on her path to success, Isabella knew that her greatest achievement wasn't just the wealth she had accumulated, but the ability to use that wealth to make a positive impact on the lives of her loved ones. And as she continued to chart her own course, she remained committed to spreading kindness and generosity wherever she went, knowing that true greatness was measured not by personal wealth, but by the impact one had on others.